let's dive into item number 37 for a bit. This is going to be related to the parking regulations. So think about where you see parking meters most commonly. Ybor City, Channelside, downtown. Those are the places that come to my mind most immediately. And what they're discussing has to do with how we will pay for parking when engaging those areas of town. Councilmember Dingfelder had some objections about number 37, so let's hear it.
One of my biggest objections to this is that I think it's a tremendous delegation of council's powers. I think that that's a dangerous precedent. And the reason I say that, it's not a power trip, but it's a function of the community's ability to have input to city government. And that's through city council. And we saw that as related to some of the Sunday parking issues as related to this. The administration did one thing, and then they basically ignored the community's concerns about the Sunday parking. And if it wasn't for this council and our ability to address that particular part of the ordinance, I don't believe it would have been fixed.
What Councilmember Dingfelder is talking about here is an accommodation for parking related to church Sundays. In other words, from what we understand, the original plan was to meter parking 24/7. Dingfelder is saying that Sunday churchgoers had an objection, and thanks to the council, he says these issues were heard.
Yeah, so basically item number 37 has a provision that makes an exception for 24/7 metered parking on certain roadways on Sunday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's all well and good for the Sunday church-going crowd, but not every Tampa resident goes to a Christian church. This is once again an example of the city catering to the most represented group rather than the least represented group. Councilmember Miranda has a few words of wisdom on this subject.
This is a clear understanding of what government's all about. It's not about what they want, meaning the administration. It's not about what we want, meaning the council. It's an idealism of meeting somewhere in the middle, having a discussion, and coming up with a result. And if you think Washington is bad, I don't want that type of feeling. And I'm not talking about all of Washington. I'm talking about certain individuals.
You gotta love Councilmember Miranda's tangents. Half the time, I have no idea what he's going on about. Anyways, it sounds like he was trying to say the government isn't about what the Castro administration or the city council wants, but rather what the people want. Okay, Councilmember Miranda, well, when the people were talking about defunding the police, you were clipping coupons at Publix, so I don't know, maybe take your own words seriously or something?
As it goes on, they decide to vote on the matter. Item number 37 is an ordinance which, unless otherwise posted, requires all members of the public to pay for metered parking 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with some exceptions on Sundays between 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So let's see how the City Council voted on this issue. Item number 37 was motioned for approval by Councilmember Miranda and seconded by Carlson.
Yes. Good. Yes. Dingfelder? No. Carlson? Yes. Citro? Yes. Miranda? Yes. And Maniscalco? No.
Motion carried with Dingfelder and Maniscalco voting no.
Well, there you have it. A 5-2 vote with only Dingfelder and Maniscalco voting no. If we lived in a just and equitable society, perhaps metered parking would be fine. But we don't live in that society. Earlier in the meeting, the City Council spoke about concerns about the department being in the red. I wonder if there was any way they could have funded it other than nickeling and diming Tampa's residents every time they stop their car. Any ideas?
Nope, can't think of one. When I think about metered parking, it really disgusts me that downtown, the hub for both the city and the county government services, requires metered parking during government operating hours. I mean, think about it. If you get subpoenaed by the state attorney, you have to pay for parking. If you need to make a comment or lobby your officials, you have to pay for parking. If you need to go to the county clerk office downtown, again, you have to pay for parking. If that wasn't bad enough, now they're making it a requirement after government hours as well. This will only stand to harm the poorest among us.
Exactly. Think about it this way. If society was organized where everyone had free access to public transit, they could actually get all of us from point A to point B without costing us an arm and a leg, then sure, a parking fee would be fine. But we don't live in that society. Instead, in order for you to truly get around this city, you have to have a car. For middle class and higher income people, meter parking might just be a minor inconvenience, but for the poorest among us who are lucky enough even to have a car, it is going to come at a high cost. It's expensive to own a car. Fuel, oil, changes, maintenance, maintaining registration, driver's license, and even maintaining insurance is so costly.
Ooh, I'm literally having a panic attack imagining those bills adding up. I mean, some people like to travel downtown on the weekends or weeknights for a little bit of recreation. It could be a fun family fare to go downtown and walk to the park or peruse Riverwalk or enjoy one of the locally owned downtown restaurants, plus the shopping. But for Tampa residents on an already tight income, it's already severely limiting to how much they can spend on recreation. Some poor people literally never have an opportunity to have fun. And metering parking in downtown after hours is just another barrier that'll cause the poorest among us to miss out and have to spend time isolated and alone in their homes, if they're lucky to even have a stable home after the pandemic ends.
Right, and think about Channelside and Ybor, two other areas that commonly have metered parking. Again, these are fun areas. Even during the daytime, on a Saturday in Ybor, you can take the whole family, window shop, have a Cuban, and then play in the beautiful parks our city has to offer. But if you're on a tight and limited income, you'll not have to account for metered parking in your adventures. This could severely limit in the ability for the poorest of the poor to even enjoy their lives. And that just makes me sad. Hey, Megan, you wouldn't suppose that this is just another intentional lock to keep Tampa's recreational life segregated, would you?
I mean, it certainly can be. And while anyone can be poor and 19% of the city's population is at or below the poverty line, we know East Tampa specifically and parts of West Tampa have an epidemic of poverty. These areas are the most neglected in the city as is, and part of the reason for that neglect is the well-to-do suburban white families seldom have to set their eyes on it. Out of sight, out of mind. And if the poorest of the poor can't even afford to park their car, and we already know about the abysmal transit situation we have here, this could result in more displacement and isolation, perpetuating the problem. We would be completely remiss if we didn't say that this would largely cause more displacement and isolation, specifically to Black and Latinx communities in Tampa, once again.
How much you want to bet when they build that gross-ass city center in East Tampa, they'll find a way to meter parking there too? Want to put $25 down, $50?
Whoa there, I can't place that bet because odds are you're probably right. And besides, I can't throw away any cash. I need to save up for parking. So don't mind me.